teachings. So that's something we have to be aware of. Now, looking at our society, how much spiritual aspects. Now, when you are looking at Buddhism as a philosophy, not a doctrine, you take into account mainly the teachings as a given, the lifestyle and all that stuff. How much is spiritual aspect important in Buddhism?
This is, in a way, a dilemma that even I'm facing, because I conduct meditation sessions for tourists, which I have been doing for some time. And then I'm also invited to give talks at various fora and institutions. And people are somewhat confused with these mundane teachings and the spiritual aspects of Buddhist philosophy. It's there, there's a famous Sinhala proverb, you take the mesh to wherever the creeper is going, so, and that is what I am expected to do. When I'm invited to places, the people expect me to say something in line with whatever they think is right. But when it comes to spirituality, it turns things upside down. And you look at life and existence from completely a different perspective. So when you have to say that, you just say it, whether how people are interpreting is not how this is. So that is a very crucial thing because the mundane life, it's very simple. As I said before, you take a small example that Lord Buddha has spelled out, that is good enough for you to be happy, and the people who are around you will also be happy if you extend loving kindness, for instance. If someone says, I can't practice loving kindness, that's their problem. But what I'm saying is the teaching itself is very simple. But spirituality is meant for people who are really seeking inner peace. The people who are curious to know what this life is all about. The people who are wondering why things happen in a particular way. So that's a spiritual, or in Buddhism we call it Sukhamande. That depends on the audience, obviously, but then you go and address spirituality to an audience who are looking for, who believe that the success is, either you have to be wealthy, you have to be very popular, or you have to have authority, or you have to have a designation. Then I can't help them, because your subject that you are communicating depends on what the audience is looking for.
So I have a question. Now, those who follow the mundane teaching, how do they differ from secular Buddhists or the agnostic Buddhists who actually do take into account the Buddhist philosophies, aspects of materialism, inner peace, loving kindness, and ego, and the setting aside of ego and all that stuff, but do not adhere to the spiritual aspects of, they don't believe in maybe a rebirth or the transition of soul and all that stuff, but they do believe in some sort of karmic relation. There are a lot of secular Buddhists and agnostic Buddhists. How do they differ from those mundane people who do believe in the aspects of meditation and all that stuff?
The fundamental teachings of Buddhism, in one of the discourses, Lord Buddha has said, this is very famous, everyone knows it, it's called Kalama, and in which Lord Buddha said, don't believe anything. So whatever you want to accept, you compare it with your own experience, because your experience is all you have. And then how do you interpret your experience? Is it connected to your story, or is it connected to your past, or is it connected to your imaginations in the future? So you try to investigate your own experience and compare to see whether this philosophy goes in line with your own experience. Everything else is a belief. So in the light of that, I don't know if I'm answering your question, just divide this. Is it a belief, or is it my own experience? And that will help the people who are, whatever the way they follow Buddhist philosophy. At the end, it should be, because after all, can you avoid vicissitudes in life, ups and downs? Everyone goes through that. Now, is it a fact or not? Or is it part of your experience or not? That's the way to investigate.
Mr. Vipula, now there's another pressing question I was going to ask you. Now he talked about the like a deformation of Buddhism. There are people who are popularizing it, like they are spreading it around, they print and they do the sermons differently. It's done different. I mean, differently from what the original teachings are. They try to add science to it and try to combat with science and with the reason with science, where I think it's quite unsuccessful. What's your message for the people who are followers of these and also for those who are creating this?
I think, in fact, even in my own meditation sessions, what I advocate is for people to go in depth into their own experience and then find out who you are. Now, it's because of this excessive indulgence in the attachment to the self, people go through immense suffering. At the end, Lord Buddha has given something called suffering, and he has said, all what I teach you is suffering and way out of suffering. And in that message, find out the causes of suffering, and then who is going through suffering, and then go into that investigation, what we call vidarshana in Buddhist teachings. You can do it by way of meditation, you can do it by way of a Buddhist discussion, and see whether you can look at your own life story from a different perspective. Because at the end, all of us are subject to a certain inevitable happenings in life. All of us reach old age, and then at the end we have to go. So when you look back, everything that we are struggling becomes something like a dream, when you look back. And at that time you will be wondering whether it was necessary. A lot of things that we do, whether it is really necessary, and having that understanding, a proactive understanding, is far too better rather than repenting on, by looking at, I shouldn't have done that and I shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm. This is the only way, just have to ignore, maybe you should self-understand and what you are made of and what you are, obligated to do. So that's what you're saying.
Is there a way, as an example, is there a way that you can be before your thought?
Mm-hmm.
Because we are virtually governed by our thought process. We do what our mind tells us to do. Mm-hmm. But is there a way that you become the observer of your thought process? Mm-hmm. Can you do that? That's spirituality. Mm-hmm. And that's what most people are not even attempting to do.
So, how do you actually manage your thought process?
Well, by simply observing. Mm-hmm. And people think observing your thought it's almost impossible, which is true. Of course, your thoughts come in lightning speed, so you can't stop them. But when they arise, you can at least see them, and then your reaction will have a different approach completely if you can see it coming.
So be aware of your thought processes.
It is awareness, but I don't want to use the word, this word is mindfulness is very, very popular, but I think it's getting stale as well. To be mindful, yeah, but on the other hand, if you can shift your position from being a thinker to observer, there could be an incredible transformation within you. Mm-hmm. And that might not be even seen by the others, but you yourself know that I'm not the same person that I used to be.
This is something people hardly do, because when you feel something, when you feel angry and you feel sad or something, you just directly just do it rather than thinking. I think you're saying is that before you actually take the action, to think about the outcome and how it would affect the others and how it would affect to yourself and society and everything else. Is that what you meant?
You can even go back, if you're angry, for instance, it's a feeling, it's an emotion. Now you go back and find out what caused the obviously it's a feeling. And what caused the feeling? It's a thought. And then go back to the thought and see whether there is any reality to that. It may have arisen in the past, which has no reality, but anger is still there. And then look for the anger, see where is it in your head or the belly or where is the anger. And the moment you start investigating, the anger disappears. And trust me, you can test it and see the benefit. The problem is it is too simple, and because it is too simple, the humans can't get it.
Simplicity is the best tool.